Good morning, friends. Welcome to the second part of Sutta study with Bhante Suddhaso on BNN. So today we're going to study the second part of the Saccaka Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya 35, and there is a link in the live chat. And I see that Michael already has some questions, so we'll get to them at the end of the reading. And welcome, of course, to Michael, to Ela, Kyle, good to see you. Hello, Sid, and hello, Edward. Good to see you all, friends. And welcome, of course, to Bhante Suddhaso. So I'll pass it on to him so we can start.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namassami. Good morning, friends. So today we'll be finishing the Saccaka Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya number 35. So picking up where we left off, the Buddha had just thoroughly refuted Saccaka's viewpoint that the five khandhas are our self, that our true self is to be found in body and mind. The Buddha had just thoroughly defeated that. So then the Buddha drives home his point. So picking up where we left off, the Buddha says, Agivesana, it is just as if a man who needs heartwood, who seeks heartwood, who travels in search of heartwood, were to take a sharp axe and enter a forest. There he might see a large banana tree, straight, young, and healthy. He might cut it down at the base, chop off the top, and separate the leaf rolls. While separating the leaf rolls, he would not even find sapwood, let alone heartwood. So a banana tree is basically a cluster of leaves that are tightly curled around each other. So there's no wood in the middle of it. And the Buddha says, in the same way, Agivesana, while being examined, investigated, and interrogated about my own doctrine, you are found to be empty and hollow, a failure. So the Buddha apparently was quite willing to be very straightforward in his speech, which is one of the things I appreciate about him. So he doesn't do this whole like modern Anglo-Saxon indirect hinting thing of like, well, Saccaka, there's something which might indicate that there may be a less than complete argument that you've presented. The Buddha's just like, you're a failure. You lose. So the Buddha says, however, Agivesana, at the assembly in Vesali, you said, I do not see any contemplative or holy man, a leader of a community, a teacher of a group, even one claiming to be a fully enlightened arhat, who would not tremble, quiver, shake, and emit sweat from their armpits when engaged in debate with me. Even if I were to engage this senseless post in debate, it would tremble, quiver, and shake when engaged in debate with me. What can be said of a human being? So you might recall that's what Saccaka had said at the start of the sutta. The Buddha says, but Agivesana, it is on your forehead that there is sweat, and it has soaked through your upper robe and landed on the ground. But Agivesana, there is no sweat on my body at this time. And the Blessed One revealed his golden-colored body in that assembly, to show that he wasn't sweating, apparently. When this was said, Saccaka sat silent, ashamed, with shoulders slumped, his face downcast, sulking and unresponsive. Then Dummukha the Lichavi, after recognizing that Saccaka was silent, ashamed, with shoulders slumped, face downcast, sulking and unresponsive, said to the Blessed One, Blessed One, a simile occurs to me. Then let it occur, Dummukha, the Blessed One said. Bhante, it is just as if there was a pond not far from a village or town where there was a crab. Then, Bhante, several young boys or girls went out from that village or town and approached the pond. After approaching and plunging into the pond, they took the crab out of the water and placed it on dry land. Bhante, wherever that crab extended a limb, the boys or girls would use a stick or stone to cut it off, break it, or crush it. Bhante, when all the crab's limbs had been cut off, broken, and crushed in this way, it is not possible for it to enter the pond again as it did before. In the same way, Bhante, all of Saccaka's distortions, writhings, and vacillations have been cut off, broken, and crushed by the Blessed One. Bhante, now it is impossible for Saccaka to approach the Blessed One again with the intention of debate. So again, just driving in the point once again that Saccaka has quite thoroughly lost this debate. When this was said, Saccaka said to Dhumaka the Lichavi, wait, Dhumaka, we do not speak with you, we speak with Sir Gautama. Saccaka's like, stay out of this one. And then Saccaka says to the Buddha, Sir Gautama, let us set aside those statements of ours and other ordinary contemplatives and holy men. I think it was just idle talk. So now he's trying to just brush aside everything that he had said before, as though it hadn't happened. How does one abide as one who implements the Blessed One's teachings? One who acts in accordance with his exhortations, one who has overcome doubt, who is free of perplexity, one who has attained intrepidity, one who is not dependent on another in the teacher's dispensation. So this is interesting. So at this point, Saccaka is now asking the Buddha for advice. So now that the Buddha has defeated Saccaka in debate and shown that Saccaka's arguments are hollow and baseless, Saccaka apparently is quite impressed by this. And it's notable his humility. So rather than angrily stomp off, or rather than stubbornly stick to his doctrines, instead now he's asking the Buddha to give teachings. He's asking the Buddha to give him advice on how to live in accordance with the Buddha's teachings, how to see for himself the Buddha's teachings. So he says, how can one overcome doubt and not be dependent on another? So that means, how can one see for oneself the truth of the Buddha's words? So if something is just told to you by somebody else, there's always going to be a certain amount of doubt in your mind as to whether or not it's true. So for example, I've been told that there's a really gigantically huge Buddha statue at the New Jersey Buddhist Vihara. I've never been there. So it's probably true, but I've never seen it. So there's still that little tiny trace of doubt in my mind as to whether or not it's real. I'm about 99.9% sure it's real, by the way, and I still plan to go and see it someday. But until you see it with your own eyes, there's always that little trace of doubt. Maybe it's not the way it is. Maybe it's actually a lot smaller than people say it is. Who knows? And not dependent on another means that one is not relying on the words of a teacher, because once again, you know it for yourself. You see it for yourself. You feel it for yourself. So the Buddha replies, "Hear Avivesana, whatever body there is, past, future, present, internal or external, coarse or subtle, inferior or superior, whether far or near. My disciple sees the entire body as it is with correct wisdom in this way. This is not mine, I am not this is not myself." And he applies the same to feelings, recognition, thoughts, and consciousness. To see it as, this is not mine, I am not this is not myself. And he says, Avivesana, it is in this way that one abides as one who implements the Blessed One's teachings, one who acts in accordance with his exhortations, one who has overcome doubt, one who is free of perplexity, one who has attained intrepidity, one who is not dependent on another in the teacher's dispensation. So here he gives a very simple and direct explanation of anattā sanya, the developing the meditation on not self. So what he says is to go through all of the components of your body and mind and to clearly identify each one as this is not mine, so this doesn't belong to me. I am not this, so this is not me. And this is not myself. In other words, this is not my true nature. This does not define me. And this is a practice that you can do. So one meditation practice on not self, which I teach from time to time, not that often, but sometimes, is to slowly scan through the body, and for each part to do the same contemplation. So like your finger. Is this finger me? Well, no. If it was cut off, then that wouldn't destroy me. Does it belong to me? Well, not really. Once again, if it was cut off, then I wouldn't own it anymore. I wouldn't have any influence or control over it. Does it define me? Does this finger define Bhante Suddhaso? Ayasoma says, maybe. I don't think so. It's this finger that defines Bhante Suddhaso. But no, it's not this finger that defines me, because once again, if this finger was gone, then that wouldn't destroy me. That wouldn't destroy my true self. And in fact, the finger that was present a moment ago technically doesn't exist anymore. There's something else here which looks like a finger, but it's not exactly the same as what was here a moment ago. So then slowly moving through the whole body in this way and seeing that every part of it is not mine, not me, not my true self. And then the same with the mind. Going through all the components of mind, and for each one, identifying it in the same way. This is not me, this is not mine, this is not myself. Another practice which I sometimes recommend is to hold out your hand next to somebody else's hand. And notice how when you look at the other person's hand, there's a very clear sense. That is not mine, that is not me, that is not who I am. But then when you look at your own hand, there's a sense that is mine, that is me, that is who I am. So you notice that difference in perception. So then looking back at the other person's hand and clearly bringing up that perception, that is not mine, that is not me, that is not myself, then try to bring that same perception back to looking at your own hand. So this is a way of starting to bring the perception of not self towards our own body. So what we're trying to do is to break our habit of identifying this body as being me, as being mine, as being what defines us, our essence, our true nature. And the Buddha says that if we do this practice thoroughly and completely, then we will overcome doubt, attain confidence, and not be dependent on another. So what that means is that then one attains stream entry. So this statement here, one who has overcome doubt, who is free of perplexity, who has attained intrepidity, who is not dependent on another, that's referring to a stream enterer, one who has attained the first irreversible stage of awakening. So then Saccaka asks, Sir Gautama, how is a monk an arhat? One who has destroyed the taints, lived perfectly, done what was to be done, laid down the burden, reached the true goal, completely destroyed the fetter of existence, and has been liberated by right knowledge. So in other words, how can someone be called fully enlightened? What defines an enlightened being? And the Buddha says, here agivesana, whatever body, feelings, recognition, thoughts, or consciousness there are, past, future, present, internal or external, coarse or subtle, inferior or superior, whether far or near, a monk sees all body, feelings, recognition, thoughts, and consciousness as they are with correct wisdom in this way. This is not mine, I am not this is not myself, and is liberated by non-clinging. Agivesana, it is in this way that a monk is an arhat, one who has destroyed the taints, lived perfectly, done what was to be done, laid down the burden, reached the true goal, completely destroyed the fetter of existence, and has been liberated by right knowledge. Agivesana, a monk whose mind is liberated in this way is endowed with three unsurpassables: unsurpassable vision, unsurpassable practice, and unsurpassable liberation. Agivesana, a monk whose mind is liberated in this way, esteems, respects, honors, and reveres only the Tathagata. Thinking, himself awakened, the Blessed One teaches Dhamma for the sake of awakening. Himself trained, the Blessed One teaches the Dhamma for the sake of training. Himself tranquil, the Blessed One teaches Dhamma for the sake of tranquility. Himself crossed over, the Blessed One teaches Dhamma for the sake of crossing over. Himself completely cooled, the Blessed One teaches Dhamma for the sake of complete cooling. So there's a number of important statements here that need to be brought out. So first off, the Buddha is giving the same practice, so going through body and mind and reflecting, this is not mine, I am not this, this is not myself. But the difference here is he says that in the case of an arhat, they see all of this with correct wisdom as not mine, not me, not myself. So in the previous one is training oneself to see with correct wisdom in this way. But the arhat already sees with correct wisdom in this way and is liberated by non-clinging. So this is the critical characteristic of an arhat. So anupada vimutta, liberated by non-clinging. So anupada means no clinging, no grasping, no attachment. So an arhat is not trying to hold on to anything. They're not trying to get anything. So they're perfectly okay with everything passing away. It doesn't bother them at all. They're perfectly okay with not acquiring anything. It doesn't bother them at all. So this is liberation. It's allowing all of samsara to slip through our fingers moment after moment without the slightest disturbance, without the slightest longing, without the slightest aversion. And then he says that a monk whose mind is liberated in this way is endowed with unsurpassable vision, unsurpassable practice, and unsurpassable liberation. So this is an interesting turn of phrase, which we don't see in quite this way elsewhere in the suttas that I'm aware of. So unsurpassable vision. So vision is, in the suttas, it usually refers to wisdom. So knowing things as they really are, seeing things as they really are. So unsurpassable vision means unsurpassable wisdom, so the highest wisdom. Unsurpassable practice, so practice is patipada. So patipada is the practices that one does in order to attain awakening. So since an arhat has attained full awakening, then they have the highest practice. Their spiritual practice is, there's nothing better than what they've done. And unsurpassable liberation. So once again, an arhat has attained full enlightenment. So there's no higher liberation. They're completely liberated. It's also notable that he says that an arhat only reveres the Tathagata. And this is because an arhat recognizes that the only being in the whole universe which is superior to an arhat is a Sammasambuddha. So that's the only being which they can look up to as being superior, as being higher. And noting again, the reason why they revere the Buddha is because the Buddha teaches the Dhamma to others, to help others attain awakening. And the final one here, so himself completely cooled, the Blessed One teaches Dhamma for the sake of complete cooling. The Pali word is parinibbuta and parinibbana, which these days I would not translate as completely cooled. I've never liked that translation. I don't know why I used it here. I would just translate that as complete enlightenment. So himself completely enlightened, the Blessed One teaches Dhamma for the sake of complete enlightenment. When this was said, Saccaka said to the Blessed One, Sir Gautama, we were offensive, we were impudent, in that we thought to assault Sir Gautama with words. Sir Gautama, a man might be safe after assaulting a furious elephant, but a man is not safe after assaulting Sir Gautama. Sir Gautama, a man might be safe after assaulting a blazing bonfire, but a man is not safe after assaulting Sir Gautama. Sir Gautama, a man might be safe after assaulting a poisonous snake of terrible venom, but a man is not safe after assaulting Sir Gautama. I'm feeling kind of bad for this guy. Sir Gautama, we were offensive, we were impudent, in that we thought to assault Sir Gautama with words. May Sir Gautama consent to a meal from me tomorrow, together with the community of monks. The Blessed One consented in silence. So this is cute. So Saccaka apologizes for being rude, and then he offers to feed the Buddha and the community of monks. So I find this quite adorable. Then, after understanding the Blessed One's consent, Saccaka addressed the Lichavis. May the Lichavi gentlemen hear me. The contemplative Gautama has been invited by me for tomorrow's meal, together with the community of monks. Therefore, you may bring to me whatever you think is appropriate. Then at the end of the night, those Lichavis brought about 500 pots of food to Saccaka. Then Saccaka had many kinds of excellent food prepared in his own monastery, and had the time announced to the Blessed One. Sir Gautama, it is time, the meal is prepared. Then the Blessed One, after dressing in the morning and taking his bowl and robe, approached Saccaka's monastery. After approaching, he sat on the designated seat together with the community of monks. Then Saccaka served and satisfied the community of monks headed by the Blessed One with many kinds of excellent food, using his own hands. So this is interesting. So Saccaka also in this display of humility, he himself is serving the Buddha and the monks. So with his own hands, he's serving food to the Buddha and the monks. Then when the Blessed One had finished his meal and washed his bowl in hand, Saccaka took a low seat and sat to one side. When he was seated to one side, Saccaka said to the Blessed One, Sir Gautama, may the merit of this giving lead to the happiness of the donors. In other words, he's wishing that everyone who contributed to the meal offering will experience the merit of this offering, the good karma. And the Buddha makes an interesting answer. He says, Agivesana, what merit comes from giving to one like you, who is not free of passion, aversion, and delusion, that merit will be for the donors. Agivesana, what merit comes from giving to one like me, who is free of passion, aversion, and delusion, that merit will be for you. In other words, what the Buddha is saying is that the merit of the people who gave Saccaka food to serve to the monks is less than the merit that Saccaka himself got, since it was Saccaka who directly gave the food to the Buddha and to the Sangha. That therefore Saccaka is reaping greater merit, higher merit. So that's also pointing to the importance of personally making offerings rather than doing it by proxy. Whenever possible. Of course, giving an offering by proxy is better than not giving an offering at all. But here the Buddha is emphasizing the value of giving an offering directly by oneself, with one's own hands. So not sending another person to do it for you, if possible. So that's the end of this sutta. At this time, if you have any questions or comments, please go ahead and we'll discuss whatever you have.
Thank you, Bhante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And welcome to a few more friends who have joined in. Hello to Yanni, Elaine, Geeta, and Nora. And whoever is watching silently as well. So Michael earlier on had asked, Bhante, in Venerable Sujato's translation, we read, what do you think, Ajivesana, when you say choices are myself? Do you have power over those choices to say, may my choices be like this? May they not be like that? This fourth aggregate takes on a larger meaning in your translation, new to me. When we translate as volition, intention, choices, we're putting these under our control. In fact, karma demands control, and that without willful intent, that is, for example, accident, there can be no karma. So perhaps this is my inaccurate understanding based maybe on translation.
Yeah, so personally, I think that translating sankhara as choices is really inaccurate. So for the most part, I actually quite like Bhante Sujato's translations. It's not my style, but I appreciate his style. In particular, I appreciate his efforts to make the suttas easy to read. So he, for example, he directly said that he tried to use simple words and simple phrasing so that even someone who has English as a second language can easily read his translations. So I think that's quite admirable, and I respect his achievement. But one point where I do disagree quite strongly is translating the word sankhara as choices. I think that totally misses the meaning of this word and creates a lot of confusion, as you pointed out. So there are other words which much more closely fit the meaning of choice or intention. So cetana, the Pali word cetana, more clearly means intention or choice. So I really don't agree with translating sankhara as choice. Even translating as thoughts, as I mentioned yesterday, is not great. Mental formation is actually one of the best translations I've seen, or mental object, mental activity. Those are all good translations. Thoughts is a little narrow, maybe not the best. And yeah, choices totally misses it. I don't agree.
Right, thank you, Bhante, and welcome also to Suzanne. There are no other questions for the time being, but Michael is very happy. He says, wonderful, thank you, Venerables. All right, so if that's all for this morning, we can finish here, and we'll be meeting again this evening where Bhante will be giving a talk on formlessness, if I'm right. Oh, actually, Ayla has a question or comment. Thank you. Adding another method to cut off the self, hopefully we'll make it. And Mehmet says, isn't it a bit harsh that if someone doesn't answer the Buddha's questions 3 times, the spirit comes and splits his head into 7 pieces?
It's just reality. So a Buddha, you might see a Buddha as a karma magnifier. So whatever you do around a Buddha or to a Buddha, the karmic result is magnified. So if you do good things, you get really good karma. But if you do bad things, you get really bad karma. So that's more how I think about it. So things which are just ordinary bad karma become extremely bad if there's a Buddha involved. And things which are ordinary good karma become extremely good when a Buddha is involved. Yeah, so I don't see it as harsh. I just see it as being the way things are. It's kind of like if you fall 5 feet, then you might actually not be injured at all. You might be perfectly fine. But if you fall 500 feet, your chances of survival are pretty low. And in fact, and if you do survive, you're going to be very badly injured. Well, it's the same. It's not that it's harsh that you die or get badly injured from falling 500 feet. That's just physics. That's just the way the world works. Similarly, it's not that it's harsh that someone's head explodes if they don't answer the Buddha. That's just physics. That's just the way things work.
Oh, and then says, couldn't the Buddha stop asking for the 3rd time out of compassion? Oh.
Well, out of compassion, the Buddha told Saccaka that if he doesn't answer, then bad things happen. If the Buddha was not compassionate, then he would have not said anything and just stood by while Saccaka's head exploded. But instead, the Buddha was like, Saccaka, you might want to answer this time. Otherwise, kaboom! Not so good.
It reminds me of the suttas where the Buddha also says whether or not one is fit to talk. So the different criteria in which, and one is actually answering questions. So better, especially because Saccaka had gone there to confront the Buddha.
Yeah.
And Mehmet is adding a smiley face. All right. So I guess that's all for this morning. Thank you again, Bhante. And we'll see you in less than 12 hours for Talk on Formlessness. And then tomorrow again for Sutta study. And tomorrow evening, there will be monk chat. And then there won't be any programs until next Wednesday. So starting next week, we will have the live streams twice a day, but only on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, because less is more. All right. So have a great and sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.